Welcome to the Coaches Tribune. We have a special guest, a NFL legend, Hue Jackson, offensive mastermind. I am here to say that I have yet to see anyone call trades and shifts and wide zone and some boots like you do, Coach. So welcome on, Coach. We're so glad to have you.
Hey, glad to be here. Thanks to you guys for taking the time today and having me on your show.
Awesome, awesome. So I know Ernie has a couple of questions for you. So
Yeah, coach. So how was your childhood growing up in LA? You know, you went to Dorsey High School. I heard that neighborhood was bad, especially during your time.
No, I even lived in a worse neighborhood than that. So I grew up on 52nd and Hoover, right down the street from the Coliseum, and then went to 52nd Street Elementary School. Left there, went to Audubon Junior High School, and so when you go to Audubon, you either go to Dorsey High School, or you go to Manual. And my sisters went to Manual, so I decided to go to Dorsey, and it was a great experience for me. We won a city championship, but it was, we lived in a tough environment, and that's part of it.
awesome, Coach. And what do you think? Who was the first person to get you involved in football? Like, was it your first love, or like, were you more of a basketball football guy, or how did that go?
Yeah, I was a basketball football guy, and probably the guy that first got me involved was Coach Steve Vertier. He was my Pop Warner coach. Took me under his wings and taught me how to play the game. The physicalness of football, and then a guy by the name of Willie Ray Johnson. He was like a surrogate dad to me. So those guys really invested into me and taught me the game and taught me that football was probably going to be my avenue to accomplish a lot of things. I never thought about the coaching part of it. I thought I'd be a player, because I was always one of the better players on the team. But Lord and behold, here I am today, having been a coach.
Yeah, I saw that you were a quarterback for Glendale Community College, and then you ended up playing at Azusa.
No, not at Azusa. That's University of Pacific in
Yeah,
Stockton.
yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just finding this out now of University Pacific. I don't know. I had one of my former coaches that I don't know if he was there at the same time or you might know him. I was his special teams quality control. His name is Kirk Dahl.
Oh, yeah. Coach Dahl?
Yeah,
Yeah, he coached at USC at one time, too.
Yep. Famous coach. I know he was coaching at Pacific, and he told me a lot of funny stories on his time in Pacific. So that just rang a bell. So I was his special team QC at FIU, and what a great guy. So,
Oh, yeah. Super guy.
and did you work with Kirk or?
I did not. I just know of him, being in the coaching fraternity. We all get to know each other.
Awesome.
So, coach, when you first got your NFL coaching job as a running back for the Redskins, who did you look up to? Who was your mentor, and who helped you grow as a coach?
It's really interesting. I had worked for so many people: Steve Mariucci, John Robinson, just to name a few. So those were very recognizable names, in the coaching world. And so they spent the time to give me the opportunity. And so I wanted to make good on what they had taught me. So when I hit the National Football League, I worked for Marty Schottenheimer. He gets no better than that. So I'm talking about John Robinson, Steve Mariucci, and Marty Schottenheimer. Some of the best coaches that coached the game. So I was influenced by them. They taught me a lot, and I'm thankful for it.
And how about when it came to your time in college football? How did you enjoy that experience? Because I know, at least from my perspective, I don't like the NFL as much due to the fact there's no rivalry. That environment, you already know how it is. Like you have USC versus Cal, USC versus UCLA, game day. How was that experience for you coaching at USC?
It was awesome because at the time, SC, which still is today, was seen as one of the top schools in all college football. So you're playing the likes of Notre Dame, which is a huge rival, and then you just mentioned UCLA. That's a huge rival. And at the time, we were the hunted. Everybody wanted to knock USC off, and so it was a great experience. And you said it, just the pageantry of college football was great. But I wanted to be challenged to coach at the highest level. Right. Because you want to be considered one of the best. So that's what got into me, and that's what started my voyage into the National Football League.
So what was your first This is a question we're going to ask all people on the show. What was your welcome to coaching moment? Whether if you were a GA or if you got something the coffee wrong and it's like, oh crap, and you got ripped a new one.
Yeah, no, I'll never forget this. I tell this story all the time. When I was my first opportunity to coach in the National Football League was with Marty Schottenheimer, and we had a staff meeting every night. And for some reason, I was coaching the running backs and spending extra time, and looked at my watch and realized, oh my gosh, I'm late. And I immediately broke out in a sprint because when we were in Frostburg, and you had to run all the way across this campus to get to where our meeting was. And when I got there, because it was so humid and hot, when I got there and sat in my seat, all the other coaches were in there. Marty was sitting there, and I am now sweating,
Oh,
sitting there, and everybody looked at me because I'm just dripping wet. I know I'm late, and they all start laughing. And Marty said, "Now, if you're gonna come in a meeting late, that's the way to come in." And so I'll never forget that. And it taught me a lot about always being early, so that way you can never have to worry about ever being late.
yeah, absolutely. My fears in like coach, like staff meeting, things like that. Like I always made sure, okay, you're on time. Make sure you're on the bathroom because I was a QC, so there ain't no getting up and going. Like I have to take notes, especially if you're on special teams and injuries and they get that injury report, you're already making note on where to change the depth chart. And I learned firsthand, okay, you got to go to the bathroom first and make sure you pay attention to every detail. And it's funny that staff meetings in itself, like it's so meticulous that you have to be there on time and just be attentive.
Oh, absolutely. That's where all the detail is learned. Is in those meetings, the things you got to cover for the day.
So really quickly, Coach, your time at USC, and I want to hit you with this question because I always hit people with the USC question. So we're from Miami, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
That 2001 University of Miami team versus that 2002 USC Reggie Bush team. Who do you like?
USC team.
Oh, my.
Not close.
What?
Talk about a Heisman Trophy winner, Matt Leinart. You're talking about a Trophy winner and Reggie Bush. I mean, those guys, they were talented. They had a very, very talented team. I thought Pete Carroll was one of the best college coaches ever in the history of college football, even though he didn't stay there a long time. That team was stacked. It was a really good football team.
All right. So the second part of that question would be, who is the best University of Miami player you have ever coached? Because I know you coached in the Ravens.
Yeah, probably the best player. I mean, I didn't coach him, but the best player I've ever been around, pound for pound, is Sugar Ray Lewis. There's nobody better. And I've been around Ed Reed, and I love Ed. Ed is tremendous, but Ray was the driver behind everything.
Okay.
He brought the energy, he brought the football IQ to the room, and he brought the leadership. So he was just different.
Right.
Coach, so out of all the guys you coach, whose work ethic did you admire the most?
Chad Johnson. He was. People don't understand playing these receivers today. Having coached them and coached the position, a lot of them can't run all day. I mean, Chad is like the Energizer Bunny. He never got tired. He took scout team reps. I used to have to drag him to the scout team. Him and TJ, they could go all day. I was really surprised when you get another group of receivers, because those guys were my first receiver group in the National Football League. And then you get another group and they don't go like that. You go, oh my gosh. And you start to really understand what the difference is between the great ones and the guys who are just good.
Yeah.
And Chad Johnson was a great player. He was a great practice player, and he was great on game day.
Awesome. And with that being said, Coach, where the NFL is headed now with, all this illegal contact and, player safety and all that stuff, do you like where the game is heading at this moment?
Well, I mean, obviously, we've taken, the head out of the game, and I'm not a doctor. You can't separate the head from the body. Right. So we've all learned to coach it better for player safety, which I think is important. But at the same time, I don't want to see them take the physicality out of the game. And I think it's still a very physical game. I think they're trying to make it safer, and I'm all for that because we want the players to be able to play as long as their bodies will allow them to, and have really long careers. But at the same time, we do want to keep them safe.
Right. Now, are you a big fan of analytics?
I am in the right situation. I don't think analytics could ever lead anything.
Right.
Because people don't understand those analytical numbers come from somebody putting in a formula.
Correct. Yes.
So still, somebody got to put those numbers in. Somebody got to come up with this formula or this deal. So it's still a people's business, And I think you use it as a tool to help you and to find different ways, but it cannot be the lead to what you do.
Right. Because that they go back and talk about the Tom Brady factor. You can't measure no one's heart and their work ethic and taking the extra time and the extra rep. Because most guys that you see at combines, they'll impress you. You'd be like, wow, this guy can jump this and run that, and then the analytics shows, okay, we should draft him at this round, and then game time comes
Can't
and
play. Yeah.
yeah. With that being said, now speaking about the draft, what is your philosophy on drafting? I know.
I think you have to draft for your coach's vision. Whatever the coach's vision is, everybody has to be on board. That's why you hire the coach.
Mm-hmm.
You hire him to give him the resources and talent that he needs to be the best version of himself. So everything you do is about helping the coach and putting him in position to win. Because if the coach wins, everybody wins.
Right.
If the coach doesn't win, then everybody loses. So I think when you think of drafts and you think of teams who've done it really well, when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Baltimore Ravens, and those are places that I've been familiar with. Obviously, I worked in Baltimore and I've watched Pittsburgh from afar. I worked in Cincinnati and now Cleveland. So I know what that looks like when it's done the right way.
Right.
I think it's really important that people understand, people feel, well, they got a GM. Well, the GM doesn't coach.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And now the GM, normally has final say, but normally it's because he's tied to the coach and they share the same vision, so they have a profile of players and what they want the players to look like and play like and be like, and that's the guys you go get.
Right. And, Tony said that because all the proven programs like the Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers, they have a trademark, and it's that hard-nosed grit defense. And Pittsburgh was blessed to have a franchise quarterback in Ben, and the Ravens were blessed enough to have a phenomenal defense to this day, so they have that. So my question to you is, do you believe that there is programs that are beyond repair? Like, for example, in my time, I'm 32 years old, and in my time, I can never remember the Detroit Lions or the Cleveland Browns, teams like that to ever be good. They're old, like it gets to that point that you're selling hope every year, and it's just like we're still not good. So, do you believe that there's programs that they're just not manageable?
No, I don't think. I think everybody can win. I truly believe that. But I think what people have to understand, you got to have a vision and you got to have a singleness of purpose. Because what the coach's vision is to win may not be what the GM's vision is to win, may not be what the owner's vision is to win. Mm-hmm. And that's where the problems come from. Normally, teams that don't win and teams that are not very successful, it's normally because there's no alignment, in what they're really trying to accomplish. They might start the right way, something gets in the way, then all of a sudden that falls apart. The collaboration falls apart. You look up, this guy is wanting this, that guy's wanting that. And that's why I think you have to do it from the coach's perspective, because he has the direct access to the team and he's coaching the team.
Right. Now, I will have to say in your years of coaching, what would you give your younger self advice on conflict?
On confidence?
On conflict.
Oh, conflict? My younger self always dealt with it head on. I've never ran from conflict. I've been around coaches that do run from it. They don't like that because they think it puts them in a bad light or a bad situation. I don't agree with that. I think you have to deal with things head on. I've always been that way. I'll never change. Sometimes I was a little too outspoken, so I have to catch myself that way. But there's no question that you have to demand a performance level, and players have to see you as the master coach and the master leader. So I think that's the only way to be successful in this business.
Absolutely. So I recently became a head coach here in Miami, Florida, at a private Catholic school, at LaSalle High School. And,
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. I'm 32 years old. I started coaching. I'm going into my 13th year.
Mm.
And I thought of you the other, like last year was, and I remember vividly because it was that part in Hard Knocks where you were just like, look, I was sitting in your chair, and now that I'm sitting in this chair, it's a lot different. And boy, I used to say the same thing, and then when I sat in that chair, I was just like, the first person I thought of was that quote, like, man, you're dealing with every aspect from like, I was a defensive coordinator, so I just worried about the defensive side. Now I have to work with parents, fundraising,
Oh yeah,
image, grades, and it's a lot.
it's different. It's different, and that scene I was really surprised at because, I think people know me well enough. I'm pretty organized, very organized, kind of OCD that way. And for us to be discussing players being out of practice,
Mhm.
I think people should already understand we had already discussed that a while back.
Correct.
I'm not going to go to a practice and all of a sudden I'm going to pull players before the practice unless there's a medical report that tells me I need to. So that was already discussed, and to have to do that in that particular environment was difficult.
So for the people who don't know and the viewers of it, um, what normally takes place, and Coach, you can explain it on a staff meeting, is you can correct me anytime I'm wrong. When I sat in them, you had everyone sit down, and then the head coach will ask the trainer, what's the report on your
Yes.
injured players? And then they will go through and say, this person does this, we're going to hold this player out. And that's it. Like, it's not like, well, can we do this? No, it's the trainer's job, and it's their job to get them back on the field as fast as they can. And
Mm-hmm.
if not, they're holding out. And what people fail to realize too, when you're injured, it sucks because those trainers are going to work you out. They're going to put you on bikes,
Yes.
cardio, and they're going to do everything they can to make sure you're in shape to do that. So it's not like a surprise that, oh, well, let's pull it from the hat.
No, you just said it. You nailed it. That's exactly. And I think people got to understand even when you go into training camp, you already have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about those things way before practice ever starts. So you know exactly which way you're trending and what you're trying to accomplish. The players know. And so it's no surprise. I made sure all the players knew who was going to be down, who was going to be up, because you never want your team to think you're playing favorites.
Correct.
Taking guys out because of soft tissue injuries. They have a history of it that we know if they go a certain amount of days, this guy can pull a muscle. There's data that tells you that.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to use the data to our advantage, and that's all we did when I was in Cleveland.
Right. And that's where the analytics would be good for
Yes,
like that.
those things. I think analytics, like I said, they have served its purpose, but when it comes to building a team, I'm not going to trust numbers. I'm going to trust guys who have experience of seeing players and coaching players and leading players, because that's what they do. And what those guys feel like, act like. That machine can't tell you. That computer can't tell you that. You said it earlier. You can't tell a guy's heart, his determination. You got to be able to see that and understand that. So I think you got to be very careful saying analytics is the lead.
So during your time in the NFL and in your long career, and what are your hours mostly like during as far as that?
Boy, I was probably at work by 5 a.m. and probably get done around 11, 10:30.
And that's Monday through Sunday.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
it doesn't stop, and your mind never shuts off. As you know, being the head coach, your mind never shuts off. You're always trying to find the next edge, for a player, for your team, for an organization, for families, for everything. You carry that on your shoulders.
But coaches, they're there from Sunday to Sunday.
Yeah.
You're talking about 16 weeks, and then maybe if you're here in the playoffs, you're looking at 18 to 20, and
Oh yeah.
the grind on it. Like we had coaches that slept out of their offices.
Oh, yeah.
The air mattresses and
I've been there before. There's no clock. You can't worry about a clock and you can't worry about anything else. I mean, when you're in it, you're in it. And that's why it's an all-consuming passion for people who are coaches, because they understand that they're giving up a lot. You're giving up your family. You're giving up yourself.
Mhm.
And you got to become selfless, because you have to be able to dive in and do the job, when the job's called for you to do it.
So when your time as a head coach, were you more of to your staff members, all right, get your job done? Because I know coaches that would do, all right, get your job done and you're good to go, or we're all this together in the aspects of we're going to meet and just constantly be on top of things. Because I know the NFL is completely different from college in
Right.
the pressure of the turnover of things. So
Right. I'm always get your job done and go. I think what people have to realize about coaches, and I think you would understand this, you have to have a certain energy level every day,
mhm,
because you got to bring it. I mean, if you expect the players to bring it, but yet you're not, how does that work?
right.
You got to bring it every day. So to me, when coaches know they've had enough, and for the evening, and they got to recharge the battery to get up and do it again the next day, whatever that is, I need your energy. I need your enthusiasm. I need your football IQ to be at its highest. So I don't need a tired coach. We all understand we're going to be tired. We all understand there's going to be days some things are a little foggy, but at the same time, we can't have very many of those days, because those things get you beat.
Right, absolutely. And coach, what do you think of, and that's the reason, me and Ernesto have started to invest in this actual podcast, because we wanted to bring awareness more on the perspective of the side of the coach, of his human side of it, because people will look at you and you'll be in the front cover of like ESPN. Oh, well, today this person was let go, or this, and it's just like everyone's just like, F that guy, that guy there, horrible coach and this, but like people fail to realize there's so many variables, from injuries till blown calls. And I remember the year that you were in Cleveland, you probably were in 5 to 6 overtime games, and
Oh, yeah.
people fail to realize how hard it is to win in the NFL.
Well, I mean, I think people finding out we didn't have a kicker at
Yeah.
the time. Just switch their kicker now, because they get it so important. Cody Parkey, the guy that's kicking for them now, came to us after a kicker got hurt on a Friday.
Hmm.
We flew him to Miami. He missed 3 kicks in the game. We went to overtime. We would have won that game in Miami. And that's the game, and you said it. So it goes back to those same things we talked about earlier. If people are not aligned correctly and you don't have the same vision, it's already hard enough to win, And you take all those other variables and throw it in the pot, boy, it's hard to have success.
Coach, I have a question. Sometimes I feel like, players, same with coaches, maybe they fit to be in that position, but sometimes it depends which organization gives you the opportunity. You think the organization has like an impact on how your cards can be played with?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the key. I mean, talent doesn't fit everywhere, right? I mean, it just doesn't. And it's got to be aligned correctly. It's got to be collaborative the right way. And that's why I said, if you take one thing and make it different than what you said it was going to be from the beginning. For instance, here I am interviewing you for a job, and I tell you, we're going to give you every resource you need to be successful. In your mind, they're going to give you everything that you want in order to do the best job. Then you get there and they don't give you that. Okay, well,
So you got to play the cards right.
There you go. So that's why when you say having the right leadership or the right organization give you the opportunity is more important than anything, because if things change, it's a different game. It's a different game in the coaching world. It's a different game on the football field.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. Let's say I am a coordinator of yours, and I know this happens a lot in the NFL, and I'm one of the hottest, I'm in the running for this one, becoming this head coach, and becoming that head coach, and interviewing and doing all this. What would be your advice for a coordinator like that? Would
Keep doing the job. That's the most. Do the job. Continue to do the job that you have right now. You can't worry about a job that you don't have. People are going to come after you if you're having success. If you don't have success, they won't come after you. So the most important thing is to continue to do the job that you're doing at a high level, and then deal with those things once they come. And you'll have the support of the coaching staff you're with now, from the head coach through ownership through GM. Everybody will help support you if that's your goal and aspirations. We'll help you that way. But we need you to be the best version for this team that you're coaching on right now, in order for us to be successful and in order for you to be successful.
Have you ever had a head coach, pull you to the side and, for example, like you've been a very successful coordinator offensively, you put up hell of numbers, and you've been in the running and termers here and there. Has there ever been a head coach to pull you aside at that time to be like, hey, I think you're going to be a really good head coach one day. I don't think you should take it right now, but you should consider that down the line? Or are you someone you got to take that opportunity as it comes?
I've never had anybody tell me not to. I've had people say, make sure you consider all the variables that you're dealing with, because they're too hard to come by. There's only 32 of these. So if you have a chance, you want to do that. Now, I would say to anybody and everybody, again, make sure it's the right fit. Don't just do it to do it. And I'm sure a lot of people don't. And then just make sure everything that is being asked of you in the contract, and from the leadership and from the executives, that it is nailed down and it's ironclad, because those are the things you will go back to if things don't work out. And it's so important to understand that.
So do you think most of the problems, you can give me a percentage of the problems of organizations in the NFL, is not really based on coaching? Because in reality, you know as well as I do, you're not going to reinvent the wheel. Like, you're going to call wide zone the same way the other guy's going to call it.
Absolutely.
But it's more of from the top organization of, like, for example, I can give you a perfect example. The New York Knicks, a big market, rich owner, but no one wants to go there because everyone knows, don't go to New York. Is
Right.
it the same way in the NFL that you have guys in free agency to say, hey, come to this place, and they're like, nah, I ain't going to go there unless if you pay me top dollar, because that the players will be about their money, but they're not going to sacrifice to be like, because they know that's where careers go to die,
You just nailed it. I mean, that's what it is. Normally, if a guy is taking a job in one of those particular places that you're mentioning, it's because he wants the payday.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last big payday before they're stepping aside, and so they'll go do it. But most people don't want to lose their value going to coach for an organization or play for an organization that's not going to win. This thing is truly about winning.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing more, nothing. People have to understand that. So when you walk in the door, and I don't think people get that. For instance, when I left Cincinnati to go to Cleveland, my value was real high. I was the offensive coach of the year for Football Writers. But as soon as I walked in the door to Cleveland and you become a head coach, you're now part of a losing organization. You don't have the same value anymore, regardless of how you look at it. You think you do, but you now have become part of that history of losing really fast. And so I think it's so important really to consider and think through all those things as you make decisions.
So in order to be a head coach in the NFL, you need to be a part of a politics club and knowing how to play the politics. Would you say that's the part that is the biggest transition from a coordinator to the head coach?
No, because I don't agree with that. I don't think you got to know how to play the politics. I just think you got to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to be very successful at your job. I think, as you know, this is the 100-year history of the league. There's only been 18 minority head coaches in the 100-year history of the league. That's a problem within itself. I've done it twice. So I'm thankful and grateful for that. But at the same time, I think you have to do a great job in order to have that chance. Now, once your name is in the system and people are saying, boy, this guy's got a chance, now maybe there's some politicking going on. But no one's going to ever come to you if you're not having success.
Right.
You can't get in the door. So that's what's important to understand.
Awesome. Would you ever consider to go back to the college realm?
Oh, absolutely. The right program, I'm going to coach again. I'm going to go back and coach next year. I know that. I'm looking forward to it. I've watched so much football over the last year and a half or two, and some things that I'm excited about having an opportunity to do.
Coach, so there's a rumor out there, when the head coaching job was open, did you try to get in the door?
I sure did. That's a program to me that should be one of the best in the country.
Oh,
You know,
without a doubt.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason why the U is not every year like they used to be in the past playing for the national championship. There's too much talent in Florida for them not to be successful. So I think it's a premier program. I would love to be there, Mike.
Coach, I felt like, when you were the OC for the Bengals after that year, when you said you were really valuable, I say, let's say you didn't go to the Browns
Mhm.
and you applied for that, I felt like you would have gotten it. But
No,
since you went to the Browns, that's what decreased your value.
absolutely. You just said it. I mean, my challenge to people is, and that's where podcasts like this and the other things that you do helps a little bit for this reason. People can't. There's a lot of people that's gone to the Browns and not done well.
Absolutely. You're in it
Bill
now.
Belichick being one, and it goes on and on and on. And so my point is, people start to forget what you've done prior to going there.
Yeah.
So that's what my challenge is. People know, wait a minute, I get you. And you said it earlier, it might not have been the right fit for whatever the reasons are. It doesn't matter, but might not have been the right fit. So let's not judge this person to say, well, they can't coach anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe it just wasn't right, and so you move on and you go do the next thing.
Right. And my uh, uh, response to that too, if John Gruden can come out of the booth out of
Oh, yeah,
certain years and he's not going to forget football. And in
absolutely.
all reality is just, motivating that locker room, talk to them as men. And then from there, they're going to give you everything they have and roll the dice of injuries and all that. But and not to say this because of that you're on that podcast, but from observing your films and all stuff, I've been a big fan since you were in the Bengals. That's why I really, really understood football. You did some unique things on some trades and unbalances. You created a lot of problems. You helped me out in fantasy football a lot because I knew you were put up points. So I want to thank you on that, and you probably helped me win some parlays here and there because I knew you guys were aired out with Carson. You had an excellent running game, receiving core and AJ Green and all that. But one of the things I don't know much, and knock on wood or anything, but eventually would happen or that. What would be your advice to the young coaches dealing with what you dealt with? Like you have all the success and then you get written off and then you have to deal with a firing and you really can't defend yourself in a firing because you have to fall on that sword because the GMs will just continue to drink coffee and chew gum and do what they got to do. And
Right.
and the coach here falls on the sword and is the one who's invested in the time and understands what the pulse of that locker room is as opposed to a guy who only shows up to practice and leaves. So what would your advice be to young coaches in that profession?
Always invest in yourself first and foremost. Never get too high or too low, whatever the situation is. You know that coaching is in your blood. It always will be. Sometimes you do have to take a step back to take a big step forward. And understand that. But keep working at it. Always work at it. Don't get too far away from it, too far removed from it, because your time's going to come back. And when it does, you got to go nail it.
Awesome. Yeah. And with that being said, I know your time now, especially you're itching to get back into it and you're watching film um, and you're probably being in the more creativity side. What would be something that you can say, I wish what I know now, I would have known back then?
Because the passing game is so different today. I still believe, you throw the score and you run the win, and you have to find so many ways of throwing the ball because there's some big time skill players on the outside. I mean, receivers can make super plays, running backs can make plays. So the only thing that I would do a little bit different is just make sure that I put people around me who understand what my vision is when it comes to offense. Just making sure that we are creative, that we are cutting edge, and think that way, because that's the way I like to think about it all.
Right. Right. And with that being said, are you a big fan of the RPO game and that new wave of it?
Absolutely. I think that's why you see so many of these young quarterbacks playing in the National Football League today. They come from college. The college have adopted some of that RPO scheme, and it's alive and well in the National Football League today.
Now, what do you think of, back to a draft question, and especially drafting the hardest position in quarterback? Um, One of the biggest knocks of Tua Tagovailoa was that he was an RPO play action quarterback. That's why he was so successful. Alabama, he had all these studs, and all he had to do was show ball and then rip it. What goes on in evaluation when it comes towards a quarterback? What are the things you look for?
To me, I mean, can he make? I mean, you're drafting him because he can't make all the throws,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So arm talent, obviously, I'm looking for pinpoint accuracy. I'm looking for a guy who knows how to lead. I'm looking for a guy when things are tough, he knows how to walk out of that, stay clean. You know, guys don't get too high or too low, and a guy who can win, that knows what it takes to win. He has that winning mentality. Because that permeates from the quarterback position throughout the whole team. If you don't have that, you got to have that moxie about yourself at that position. If you don't, it's hard to get it.
Who would you say has been someone to mentor you not only in the coaching realm but also in being a father or making you a better person in those
Mhm.
aspects?
Marvin Lewis. Marvin Lewis is one of my best friends, somebody I've known for a long time, worked for a long time, somebody I trust. And he's done a lot for me that way.
Awesome, that's good. Now, Coach, are you a basketball fan?
Oh, absolutely. Let's go Lakers.
We got our feet in the bubble now, so we'll see.
No, we'll probably be seeing the Heat. It's okay. I don't care who we play. We're ready.
Right, I think
Are you ready too?
Uh-huh.
it'll be great for TV. LeBron's old team and
Right.
uh,
We'll be.
the Riley and the Showtime Lakers and all that. Who's your favorite basketball player of all
My
time?
favorite ball player of all time is Kobe Bean Bryant.
Hmm.
Art, I love Michael Jordan. Always have, always will. But Kobe, because I met him personally, had a chance to be around him before. He was just different. There's only so many guys in this world that you have been around and you can tell they're really different. And that's why I mentioned Ray Lewis when you asked about the U, because Ray is different. Kobe Bryant is different, and they're different in good ways, and they're great from a talent standpoint.
Yeah, like you see why they're great,
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt. They're driven. They don't like to lose. They don't accept it. They find ways around it. That's who they are, and that's what they do.
Now, when it comes to confronting players, I know every coach's formula, especially in the profession of the NFL and all stuff, honesty is always the best because you're talking to men, you're not talking to children or boys. What have you seen or what dynamics have you used, because I want to become a better coach, that has helped you build relationship with players that they can sell out and be like, I'm gonna buy into this? What are the
I think what it starts is they got to know you care.
Okay.
They got to know that you value them as a person, first and foremost, before you start getting after them from a football standpoint. They got to know that you're in this with them. And then they have to know that you know what you're doing, that you can help them attain the goals that they have. You can help make them better football players, because if you do, they're going to make more money, they have more value, they have more opportunities. So that's what players are looking for. And I think that's what our young generation is looking for too, but they're looking for it in a different way because they're looking for leadership. A lot of them don't have dads, so they're looking for more leadership and who can help them get and ascend to the next level. But in the National Football League, the guys who are coaching these guys, they're there because they can help these guys make more money and become better players.
Have you seen a change in the mental approach when it comes to I was just a first round pick and now what? You know what I mean? Most of the times younger people would be motivated or like older times would people will be motivated. Now generational change and just culture change, people just relax after they get drafted. Have you
All right.
seen change in that or?
Oh no, I've seen it, and that's when the coach has to do the best job of making sure that he has that player understand. You know, you got drafted on what you did in college. In order to stay here, it's
Mhm.
going to be what you do while you're here. You know, and you got to be able to create that environment so that player can find his wins. You know, and I think that's so important. All that stuff goes hand in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very intrigued to get your opinion on this. When it comes to leadership, what is your philosophy on leadership? Are you someone that, like you said, you show that you care, especially the individuals, but when it comes to how do you balance out a being a professional and being someone personal with
Well, it's all professional, but it has a personal touch.
gotcha.
I think you have to understand that those are two lines that you do cross from time to time, you
Mhm.
know, because players got to know that you can and you're willing to do that. But at the same time, they know there's also a line they can't cross, you
Mhm.
know, because and I think that starts with transparency. I think you tell people what you expect from them and what you want from them. For the most part, I think people will give you that. If you never tell a person what you expect or what you want them to do, how do you think they're going to ever do it? You
Absolutely.
know, if you become very transparent, you become very detailed in your conversations with people, making sure they know exactly what it is you're looking for. And then I think everything else takes care of itself.
Now, all time three greatest coaches in any sport, in your opinion.
Uh, Phil Jackson, um, Bill Belichick, Tommy Lasorda.
Okay, you went all three sports. That's awesome. Who's the greatest speaker you had come to speak to the team, and you sat there, you took notes, and you're like, "This is phenomenal."
Andre Ward, the boxer. Yeah, he came to speak before we played the Chargers when I was in Cleveland, and he was phenomenal. I mean, he did a great job. I mean, former champion, never lost. You know, he left his mark on the sport and left on his terms. You know, sound like Jim Brown, leaving on my terms. That's what he did, and so it was interesting.
Right now, here's what another question people don't know. In the coaching realm, you're always getting up and going. Where would you say home is the past 20 years?
Wherever I was coaching, because been everywhere. Now, my family had stayed in Cincinnati quite a bit, but I have been a little bit of every place. You know, you chase it. You know, as a coach, you have to be willing to do that. That doesn't mean your family needs to do that all the time because you want to protect them as much as you can. But at the same time, we in the coaching profession understand we can be here today and somewhere else tomorrow. That's just part of it.
What was the fastest transition for you? Like you were at one place and you interviewed for one place and they're like, hey, we want you here. The next day, you basically put everything on the truck and you headed.
That was probably leaving Atlanta to go to Baltimore. You
Okay.
know, it happened really quickly. You know, I no one knew it was going to happen, and boy, I interviewed in Baltimore, and next thing you know, let's go. You know, and I'm thankful for it. It gave me a chance to really propel my career because I got a chance to draft and coach Joe Flacco.
Nice. And what would you say has been, um, if you weren't a coach, what would you be, professional wise?
I wanted to be an FBI agent.
Oh,
That's what. So I thought that's what I wanted to do because I thought it was exciting, you know, to go figure out people that are doing bad things and put them in situations to where it wasn't fun for them. But that's what I really believe I would have done. You
mm,
know, I had a chance to do it. I had a chance to really jump ahead in the line, very honestly. And I chose not to. I chose to become a graduate assistant coach at Pacific and work my way up in coaching.
Coach, so what was your best memory coaching? What game you were like, wow, this is one of my favorite one?
I was the offensive coordinator for the Oakland Raiders. We were playing on a Sunday evening against Denver, and we scored 59 points. And it was the most, I couldn't call a bad play if I wanted to. Darren McFadden looked like the best player in the history of the league that night. And it was a phenomenal win and a great game by the offensive football team.
That's good. And who would you say? Now I want to go with a list before we close up. Of best of all time, and I know you can't cheat anyone, but in your opinion, of who you've been around, best quarterback you've been around.
Best quarterback I've been around. I still have to say Carson Palmer.
Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah, I've been around him as I recruited him to USC, coached him at USC, coached him at Cincinnati, coached him at the Raiders. He was the best quarterback I've ever been around.
Best running back.
Ooh-wee. Stephen Davis is going to kill me, but I would have to say Darren McFadden. Darren McFadden was so fast. I've never coached a guy that was as fast and played as fast as Darren. Darren ran 4.3. He practiced 4.3. He played 4.3. He ran into people 4.3. That's just who he was.
And then injuries got him, turf toe, and
yeah,
you know how it is. That's it. Once you start getting things like that, those little nicks and bumps, that's best receiver. And I know this would be a hard one. You had some dudes back in the day.
Boy, from Lavernius Coles to I still it's Chad. There is no two ways about it. He's special. He really was. He was a tremendous football player.
So Chad Johnson is from Dade County,
Liberty City. Yes,
and it's completely normal if you bump into him and at a soccer field and he's playing there and he's just talking and yapping and but his swagger is what Dade County is all about. They're gonna talk and they have the confidence to do it. But I remember growing up, like Chad was one of my favorites. Like especially that Hard Knocks. He went to McDonald's. You had it was probably bad at that time, but all the kids wanted to go to McDonald's before pregame.
Yes, they did.
But I think the misconception and the rep that he got based on the media that he was a comedy guy, but that people couldn't take him serious or things like that. But like speaking with him, you see there's a passion in him wanting to be the best and footwork wise. I don't see a lot of receivers do what he has done.
No, people really got to know him, and if people was around him when I was around him, they would really appreciate him on a whole different level because you're right. He understood entertainment, but what people don't know, he understood work ethic. He's one of the hardest working men on our football team. There was no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to this day, I'll show my receivers, Ocho Cinco film and, the YouTube film is kind of blurred out. Like, no, just ignore that. But just his, like, I would say the closest thing I've seen to it, the closest, not even the same universe, I would say Jerry Jeudy. Jeudy.
Oh, yeah, Jerry, he can get in and out of breaks. Chad will tell you the things that made him special was his feet. He could start and stop and get people to believe he's going one way and go another like nobody. And I can put
my life on it that I really doubt that anyone consistently for 10 reps can lock him down. The best. I don't see it.
I know that for a fact.
So yeah, best defensive player that just gave you headaches and you're like.
Ray Lewis, coach Cincinnati, coach against him at Oakland. He was Ray Lewis was something now because he understood the game. He knew what you were doing before you knew what you were doing.
And Coach, so we're going to be wrapping things up pretty shortly here, but right now, would you go with the Lamar Jackson or would you go with the Patrick Mahomes?
Patrick Mahomes.
I would see why.
When Lamar wins a playoff game, then we can have a different discussion.
So here's a funny ending story. I was the defensive coordinator at my prior school, and we faced this team called Boynton Beach.
Mhm.
We show up, and I'm watching film, and this guy's really, really good. So we we played 4 eyes. All right, we wanted to spill it. We drop 8 at times, and the first half we were winning 14-13.
Oh, wow.
So God, I'm here. Yes, second half came.
Uh-huh.
The Baltimore Ravens play it to this day, his high school highlights, and one of those against us. So I firsthand saw the greatness of Lamar Jackson, and when he won the Heisman, I was just like, that's the best player I ever coached against. So Lamar Jackson, I would say too, open field, he has some good feet.
Oh, no, he's special. I mean, he is definitely special. I think, obviously he's, starting to really find himself. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with that team this year because they're very talented. If he can go lead into the Super Bowl, he'll be in that conversation with Patrick.
Yeah, but it's that health. He has just take care, one wrong hit, and then it becomes RG3.
Yeah, those guys that run, that's what happens to them.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but Coach, we appreciate your time, and I'm greatly humbled to have a conversation with someone at your expertise, and hopefully we'll be in touch soon.
Thanks, guys. Hey, take care. Best wishes. Stay safe. There's a pandemic going on out there.
Right. Thank you, Coach. You have a
All
good
right.
week.
Yes. Bye-bye.